We all wonder how we got to where we are today. And some of us wonder how we even made it to 30 years old. But in that wonderment, we recognize and remember that there are those that came before us, and to much degree, it's serendipity of how we arrived here in Jacksonville. And it's those that came before us that helped us to get to where we're at today. So when Donna's great-great-grandfather, Jacob Hazuri, first immigrated to the United States and settled in Springfield, and her grandfather, Rufus, opened the Roosevelt Grill on Ashley Street, which she mentioned was frequented by the likes of Ray Charles and Hank Aaron. Those are roots that come before us, and they're beautiful roots of why we're here today. But everyone in the room has a choice, and the question is why we are still here today in Jacksonville, and that's the choice we make. So Donna is a proud Jacksonville native. Many of you knew her as an award-winning local television news anchor. Also know that as a 3-time cancer survivor and the former nonprofit executive of the foundation that she founded, that her history in Jacksonville and her roots are strong. After graduating from Florida State University, she started her career in broadcast and led to her being the lead anchor at First Coast News. Over that time, she listened to and shared stories of people living in every corner of this city from all walks of life. She investigated many of Jacksonville's systemic problems and held people in power accountable. Those of you who we are a large member of iCare know about holding people in power accountable and how sometimes they try to slip through. And so over her 25 years of reporting, she established herself as a trusted voice for our community. 3 bouts of breast cancer inspired Donna to bring her passion toward a new pursuit. And she saw fellow cancer patients and survivors saddled with debt and struggling to make ends meet. The cancer in and of itself was horrible, but everything that was happening around that made it worse, and created the Donna Foundation in 2003 to support the same community of patients, survivors, and healthcare providers who stepped up for her when she needed it most. And this is probably an old figure, but to date, more than 17,000 families living with breast cancer have been helped. I don't give a round of applause for that. In addition to founding the 26.2 with Donna, the National Marathon to Finish Breast Cancer, an annual event that draws runners from around the world to Jacksonville. The Jaguars Foundation sponsored the Family 5K many years, of which I did. I'm not going to mention the marathon, okay? We'll leave that for Donna. Donna is our first woman mayor in the city of Jacksonville, and I think that deserves a round of applause as well. The 9th mayor in the consolidated city of Jacksonville, and she really has come to what I would say is complete the commitment that was made in consolidation to provide equal opportunity and access to all Jacksonville citizens. So I'd like to welcome Donna.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having myself and Tim here today. It's just an honor to be with you. I was asked to speak on some of the accomplishments that we have made in this first year, but I have to first comment on something that Peter just talked about, my deep family roots and then the choice that we all have. I was on social media yesterday and saw a post from a doctor that I have followed here for a long time who said, I'm packing up my family today and I'm leaving Jacksonville because I have a trans child and we're afraid now. And we've tried to stay and work through it and we just don't feel safe. That was like a punch to the solar plexus for me, because that's not what I want for Jacksonville. And just know, that's not the type of Jacksonville we're going to have. It is my absolute goal to make a safe space for people like her and her family and anybody else who feels marginalized in our community. So with that, it truly is an honor to be here with you to talk about the progress that we are making together in Jacksonville, and I have to thank your lay minister, Peter Racine, for the invitation. I'm grateful for the many years of friendship that we have shared and for the immense impact he has made both here and outside of the pulpit as well. Peter asked me to speak with you about my vision for Jacksonville, and the fact is, it is one and the same with the principles that guide your lives and how you worship. Celebrating our diversity, striving for equity and inclusion, believing in the inherent worth and dignity of every person, accepting one another regardless of our differences, building a community based on peace, liberty, and justice for all, and recognizing that we are all inextricably bound to one another. Your church's mission had two words that really touched me, really spoke to me: relentless love. I feel those words in my heart, in my mind, and in my soul. Similarly, love over fear, if you've read anything I've written or heard me speak, is the mantra that I choose to live and lead by every day. On a personal level, it means waking up every day grateful for the opportunity to live, breathe, and to make a difference, to serve. For Jacksonville, it's the idea that we are stronger when we choose love and unity over fear and division. Choosing love over fear does not mean that we pretend obstacles aren't real. It means facing those obstacles with truth and purpose and working through them with optimism. That is what we've done throughout my first year in office. And I'd like to take a few moments to tell you about some of the accomplishments that I am most proud of. First, we took down the wall between our people and our city government. From holding a community conversation in each of the 14 council districts, to launching transparency dashboards on jacksonville.gov, to appointing new voices. Does anybody have a tissue? You guys got me going so much this morning that I... Here? No tissues. Oh, look at this. I've got everybody coming.
Yeah, okay, good.
Thank you. Y'all, I can't come to any service without crying. That's just who I am. I hope that doesn't worry anyone. that's your mayor. So we took down the wall between our people and our city government, from holding a community conversation in each of the 14 council districts, to launching transparency dashboards on jacksonville.gov, to appointing new voices, diverse voices, and to our city boards and commissions, to monthly celebrations of our many diverse communities. It has been a top goal of my administration to bring everybody in, to make everyone feel seen and everyone feel heard and everyone feel welcome in our beautiful city. Jacksonville is one of the most diverse cities in America, and I believe that is one of our greatest strengths. It also means we're obligated to make sure every citizen feels welcome and included. With that in mind, we returned our city's iconic MLK breakfast back to its traditional roots of a unity event. We removed Springfield Park's Confederate monument, a symbol of a time when we failed to see each other's humanity. The mayor's office welcomed Hindu Americans for Diwali and Muslim Americans on the day of Eid. We celebrated our Arab community and its culture. We were honored to do that, and I was honored to be the very first mayor to speak at an interfaith iftar, proclaim Jewish American Heritage Month, and serve as the Grand Marshal of our city's Pride Parade. We appointed the city's first Hispanic outreach director and are planning the first ever Hispanic Heritage Month dinner to showcase the growing Latino community here in Jacksonville. And our administration is among the most diverse, probably the most diverse in our city's history. We've also made great strides in areas that will improve the quality of life for everyone in our city. Major infrastructure investments include a big focus on parks and recreation. We opened the first segment of the Emerald Trail and worked with Groundwork Jacksonville and the JTA to win a $147 million grant, the largest by far in our city's history, to fund those future segments. We opened the new and improved Friendship Fountain, and after half of our pools were closed last year, we made the investments needed to open every single one of those pools this summer. Faced with health outcomes that are among the worst in the state and the nation, and health disparities that fall along racial lines, we have made health a top priority. My chief health officer and his team have launched several programs that address food insecurity, mental health, telehealth, and infant mortality. We opened cooling and heating centers to protect our citizens from extreme temperatures. And our Get Covered Jacks campaign reduced Jacksonville's uninsured population by 34%. Healthcare continues to be a passion of mine, and I could not be prouder of these victories. We're just getting started on that front. With less than half of our third graders reading at grade level, we launched Mayor Deegan's River City Readers to make reading fun and encourage families to read 20 minutes a day. We started out with a goal of reading 300,000 minutes at the beginning of the year, and we passed that in a matter of a few weeks. So we updated that goal to 1 million minutes. We crossed that threshold yesterday, with still half the year to go. We tackled head-on the twin crises of affordable housing and homelessness. Millions of dollars have been invested into rental assistance, eviction protection, roof replacement, down payment assistance, and programs that support people on the cusp of homelessness and individuals who are facing chronic homelessness. We have more than 3,000 affordable housing units that will be completed by next year, with more on the way. In the coming weeks, my team will announce a comprehensive plan in hopes of solving our homelessness. Our economic focus has centered around becoming the small business capital of the Southeast, and we are well on our way on that front as well. We have invested in people, process, and technology to streamline our permitting system. We've launched new programs that offer grants, loans, and incentives to small business owners from all walks of life. And we're getting ready to open a small business center on the north side. There is no doubt that the effect of climate change is already with us. Last year, we released our 50-year resilience plan that is the blueprint as we prepare our city for extreme flooding and heat that is to come. Our Chief Resilience Officer and her team are launching a first-in-the-nation compound flood model that will allow our city to make emergency planning decisions down to the block and street level. I appointed the first ever Chief Sustainability Officer who is working to grow our tree canopy, electrify our city fleet, and reduce our greenhouse gas emissions as well. We've also taken care of the brave heroes who protect and serve. On Friday, we announced a historic agreement that gives significant raises and brings pensions back to our firefighters. We're at the finish line of negotiating the very same for our police officers as well. And through a variety of programs, we are living up to our reputation as the most veteran-friendly city in America. Given Peter's day job and the biggest news story in Jacksonville right now, I'd be remiss if I did not bring up the Stadium of the Future and the once-in-a-generation community benefits agreement that is attached to it. Our proposed package will build a world-class stadium that we can use for non-NFL events as well, and it will keep the Jaguars in Jacksonville for decades to come. It also pumps tens of millions of dollars into the completion of our Riverfront Park system downtown, along with workforce development, affordable housing, and homelessness programs to take on some of the biggest challenges our community is facing. The Jaguars have made the largest commitment in the history of the NFL, matching our $150 million for this effort with their own $150 million. I believe the new stadium and investment in our riverfront will help downtown finally take off, and that in turn will bring in the commercial revenue that we can invest in neighborhoods all across our city that have been left behind for far too long. Combined with the community benefits agreement, we are addressing quality of life issues with the greatest need. We are maximizing this moment for our citizens. The work of my first year has been about deciding who we want to be as a city. That's what I ask people every time I come to one of these community benefit meetings. We've had huddles in all those same districts that we had before. And I said, that's the question before us right now. What kind of a city do we want to be? A city of untapped potential? I'm so tired of that word, potential. Or a city that finally meets its promise for everyone? The time is now to turn our renderings into reality, ensure that prosperity is felt across our entire community, and build a city that finally works for all of us. I hope that all of you will continue to join me on this journey. Make your voices heard so our city leaders put politics aside and make decisions that are best for the people of our city. Find your own ways to serve, whether it's volunteering, mentoring, organizing, or fundraising. Pull up a seat at the table by joining one of our city boards. There are so many ways that you can help bring our city together. All I ask is that you continue to engage with unity as your guide and with relentless love in your heart, because that, my friends, is the only way forward. Thank you so much, and I'm happy to take your questions now. Am I staying here for questions?
Yeah. And we have a couple minutes for questions. And Crystal, if you get anything online, let me know. And if someone wants to come up to the mic, please feel free to do that. Rob, and if you want to come to the mic so people can hear. I'm going to start out with one. Also, thank you, Tim, for joining us today. The mayor keeps us, going forward. Tim keeps us safe on a particular hurricane event. So, I mean, you need both, right? I mean, you gotta, so thank you for doing that. The one phrase that struck me in the bio, and I got it from a couple sources, was when you were talking about the Donna Foundation, that you said you were called into action. And that struck me because that's a little bit different than saying that you went into action. And so just wondering how that quiet voice inside, what we might call a calling, that you've taken action because it was a calling to run for mayor and other things that you've done. Tell us a little bit. I see you as a deeply spiritual person, and when you say relentless love, but maybe take a moment to talk about that.
I would love to. First of all, a comment to my husband. He is probably the person that keeps me most balanced, most prepared to return to that loving place that sometimes when you're dealing with a 19-member city council that doesn't always want you to succeed, you can lose sight of. But in addition to keeping you safe, he certainly keeps me coming back to a loving place, and that is really a gift. When I say this was a calling for me, I really made a very intentional decision after my third diagnosis with breast cancer, because I didn't think I was going to be here for very long, to be honest. And I just didn't want to live in fear. I asked, God, that whatever time I had left, I just don't want to live in fear. What do I do here? I found a lovely book, I don't know if any of you have ever read it, by a gentleman named Jerry Jampolsky, called Love is Letting Go of Fear. And I call it a 12-step program for fear addicts. But basically, it takes you through steps to change what I call those, crazy vibrations in your brain that always want to go back to the negative place, and to view your circumstances through a lens of love as opposed to one of fear. And when I started to do that, it just became more and more evident to me that I needed to live every single day that I had left, however many days that would be, in service, doing as much good as I could do for as many people as I could do it for. Service has always been my love language, honestly, but I think when I had made the decision to give up fear, and it is a decision because it takes a lot of work, as most of you know. I feel like I'm home in this place. That's really where the calling came from, and I get up every day so grateful to wake up and have the opportunity to do it all over again. And so this really, for me, has been a labor of love, and one that I can't even begin to tell you how happy I am to be able to do. And I think one of the reasons we've been able to accomplish what we have is simply because, and I felt this way from the moment that I tossed my hat into the ring, whether I won or whether I didn't win was not the primary goal for me. It was to present this truth to people of what we could be if we would harness the power of love. And so on the night that I won, when I said, love won tonight, that's what I meant. We spent a small fraction of the money of our opponent. We didn't run one negative ad. It was my goal to present a template by which we could live if people would choose it. And if they didn't, well, I was perfectly happy to go back to my wonderful life with my wonderful foundation and my wonderful husband. But I'm so grateful that the city of Jacksonville came along with me, and I hope we can continue to do that work together. So that was a long-winded answer, but that's basically it.
Rob's going to ask one of our veterans here. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. So the future of Jacksonville is, of course, our children. And I was very concerned at first when I heard about all the funding for public schools going to other places. So now that I don't know if you have this answer, but how are their test scores comparing to the regular public schools test scores? How are those schools comparing to ours?
Well, there's a couple of problems here. One is that, and this is, I've talked all over the city about this because people obviously are very upset about their neighborhood schools possibly closing now, and I get that. I mean, sometimes we got to be awful low to the ground in order to see that we need to engage, right? And so I've heard from so many people who had no idea that so much of the money that has traditionally gone to our public schools is now going to provide vouchers not only to charter schools, some of which are public, some of which are not, but also to any private school, regardless of income. So folks, we have people that are perfectly capable of sending their kids to private school if they want to, who are now using our public school money to send their kids to private schools. So you're talking about literally billions of dollars over time that are being siphoned from our public schools, but also not only that, but you've got 24,000 less students now in our public schools. So what are our school districts supposed to do? You've got 24,000 less kids. That's less income. That's less people that need to be in buildings. You got to find a way to consolidate. And frankly, if you look at the actions that have been taken over the last several years, you would say this might be pretty intentional. So people need to step up. You need to talk. But in answer to your specific question, our public school grades, and somebody posted this the other day, our public schools do a better job than any of those, certainly than most of the charters out there, which are not bound by the same standards. We have some good charters. I don't want anybody to think that I'm dumping on all the charter schools. I'm not. I think we have some good charter schools. The fact of the matter is we have some very not good charter schools, and they're not held by the same standards as our public schools are, and so you don't have the ability to hold them accountable like you do our public schools. That half penny that you all approved for our public schools have to use that for buildings. They can't use it to teach our kids. They have to use it for buildings, and that's what it was there for, to save our crumbling schools. But did you know the charter schools that get that money don't have that requirement? They can spend it on salaries or anything else they want to spend it on. So it's one of those things where our public schools really do a fantastic job with the resources they have. We are bleeding teachers, and you can understand why. But I would strongly encourage you that if this is not something over which the mayor has any control, to be honest with you. We have an elected school board. All of the money for local schools comes from the state and the federal government. So I don't have any control over what we do with our local schools beyond saying, folks, if you care, wake up and get engaged. So I hope you'll do that. But thank you for the question. Yep.
Jyoti, come up for your question. Crystal, do we have any posted right now? Could you give us one?
We do. We have Ellen Tilley who would like to know, are we planning new communities to house those soon to be displaced by sea level rise?
Well, what we are doing, and this is part of this comprehensive plan, in fact, the entire country we have FEMA and cities from around the country that are asking Ann, our Chief Resilience Officer, to share that report with them because it is so comprehensive. So what it's done is it's laid out a blueprint for us to say, we're working with our development community, because that's obviously a very powerful community and one that we need. And we've said, look, what can we do to incentivize you to build in places that are going to be safe? What can we do to move the population into places? If we continue to build at the same pace in the same places that we have started to build, in this community, we're going to have a lot of folks that are in harm's way. So the goal of that is to find ways to guide people toward living and building, which is one of the reasons you hear me talk about infill downtown all the time. It's a place we want to get people to live. There's some high areas down there. It is really important for us to build in the places that are going to be safe and to disincentivize building in places where it will not be safe. And that's exactly what we're doing with our resilience plan. It's a 50-year plan for resilience in Jacksonville, and we're already working with our development community on that. Thank you for that question.
Mayor Deegan, thank you so much for being here.
Good to see you again.
Yes, and I volunteered in your campaign, and I volunteered as a nurse in your marathon.
Thank you.
And I became a nurse in memory of my mom who died from heart disease. And I learned that there is plenty of evidence behind a whole food, plant-based diet and prevention and cure of several diseases. So I ask you, and as a vegan, I'm very careful about the cost and availability of plant-based foods in our great city of Jacksonville, and we have food deserts. So would you please sign the plant-based treaty and eliminate the food deserts and have healthy plant-based food economically available in our city?
We are absolutely working on that. That is one of the reasons that I hired Ashante Green to be our Chief Sustainability Officer. Because she is very focused on that. As you know, she is a local farmer. She does a lot of education with kids about plant-based foods. And she is absolutely committed to making sure that we erase our food deserts in the city. So we're working on all of that. Thank you.
We'll take one more online and then one in person, then we'll close. You have another one online? No, okay.
Hello. First of all, I just want to say I'm so happy that you're now our mayor. My mom and I were very excited.
Thank you.
And we both voted for you, and I'm very happy to say I voted for you.
Thank you.
And my question is, so as a Wiccan, as a pagan and a witch, I'm a religious minority in this city in the Southeast. And the Southeast has historically not been very accepting and friendly towards religious minorities, especially people who practice voodoo, Santeria, Wicca, Druidry, etc. I'm very happy to hear and see that you've been doing your most to make religious minorities feel included, such as Hindus, Jews, and Muslims. But my question for you is, do you have any plans, or would you be open to being showing more inclusivity in the city regarding the pagan community here? Because we do have a large pagan community. I don't know if anyone knows that here, but we have a pagan pride every year. And we have everyone from Druids to Wiccans to Hellenistic/Greek pagans, to Kemetic/Egyptian pagans, to Norse pagans, to heathens, and so on and so forth. So my question is, do you have any plans, or would you be willing to show more inclusivity towards the pagan community in Jacksonville?
Well, hopefully I have shown that I have a willingness to be inclusive of anyone's personal beliefs, whatever they may be, whether they have a faith or no faith at all, or regardless. So this is why I put Parvez Ahmed in charge of our diversity and inclusion office. We are continuing an outreach to everybody in the community, so I'm sure that Parvez would be happy to speak with you, and we could talk about that for sure. Thank you.
You.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate your time very much.